ma questo triste cuore piange di malinconia. Lontan sei tu da me, dal cuore che ti ama.
All right, good morning, my dear Linux friends and Windows friends, Mac friends, Chromebook friends, red wine friends, and whatever else you drink while you're using Linux. This morning, I am drinking some watermelon seltzer water before I have my breakfast. How are you, all of you? I know it's been a while. Haven't done much this month. I apologize for that. I had the sudden passing of a dear friend, family member, earlier this month, and it's just been one of those months where, yeah, I really do feel like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know. Blah, blah, blah. Hey, you want to do some? Anyway, I am just listening to some of my dad's tunes to keep the spirits up, as it were. For this Good Morning Linux podcast, I'm sure I will miss most of you, if not all of you. This was not scheduled because I wasn't sure when I would be back on again, live, as it were. So I apologize for that. For those of you who are still contributing through Patreon and PayPal, thank you ever so kindly, although this month I don't think I deserve it, but thank you. As always, you guys know who you are. I know some of you like to remain anonymous, and I will respect that always, of course. For this morning, we'll talk a little bit about some Linux news, some odds and ends, as it were. Again, I will miss most of you, and hopefully I'll catch you live on the next one. And so, yeah, when I'm done with this, I'm going to step out and do some grass. I mean cut some grass. Yeah. All right. Why don't we go straight into the odds and ends news for Linux for this morning, for this Good Morning Linux podcast. All right, what do we have here? First up is going to be, well, Linux Mint 21 Vanessa. Have I dated a Vanessa in the past? I don't think that I have. Sorry, I get sidetracked. A friend of mine was visiting from Florida. Dear friend of mine, she's a nurse, and no, her name is not Vanessa, but my mind was elsewhere. Linux Mint 21 Vanessa has been released. There are 3 versions of this: XFCE, Mate, and Cinnamon. I prefer the Mate desktop because it just sounds better. It sounds classy. Pardon me, but what do you use? I use Linux Mate. Oh, nice. Anyway, there are 3 versions. I'm using the previous version, Linux Mint 20.3, to do this live streaming, which is great for a 11-year-old PC. And anyway, I won't read all of this, but you know, what's new with Linux Mint XFCE? You can click that and go to that when you have time. You need at least 2 gigs of RAM and all that. But yeah, running this on a PC which originally had Windows 7, it works fantastico. So definitely check out anything new from Linux Mint. If you are a Windows user, you will not be disappointed. Sorry, listening to my dad's tunes. All right, what's next here? We have, yes, Chrome OS Flex. A lot of news here. Chrome OS Flex, this Google's Linux-based system is, it's wonderful. I tested this on a laptop which originally had Windows Vista. And it worked, and it was the unstable branch of Linux. And it installed and it worked. I mean, that is amazing. But much news here, you know, reviving old PCs, what is it and why you should use it. Chrome OS Flex can turn your old laptop into a Chromebook. I think it's out of I think it's out of unstable branch. I think it's into beta. I don't think this is finalized yet. I have to check on this. But it appears that, or maybe it is finalized. It says here Google has certified 400 devices with Chrome OS Flex, including laptops like Acer, Asus, even Apple. Really? Even Apple Macs? Wow. Very nice. It just seems like, Chrome OS has become the default Linux desktop OS for the Windows masses, it seems, because it is a standard. Anyway, if you haven't already, check out Chrome OS Flex. It may or may not work, and look, it's free to try. And if you have a 10-year-old machine or older, mine was from 2008, I got it to work. Very impressive piece of technology. So definitely check out Chrome OS Flex. All right, let me check OBS Studio. Check the stream here. Are we still in the green? I think we are, right? Okay. All right. Let's do. Next up is some Ubuntu. Firefox news. I'm not sure why even Firefox is even mentioned. There are so many better choices out there. Anyway, Ubuntu devs finally fixed frustrating Firefox snap flaw. My guess is like Flatpaks. You never know when these things are going to work. If they will launch. If they launch, well, it takes 6 hours to launch. They're kind of slow. I generally like to avoid most snaps and Flatpaks after, a year or two of testing. Sometimes they work great. Sometimes they don't. These can be somewhat unpredictable. Again, from the eyes of a Windows user like myself, who enjoys using Linux, I guess they fixed this to where it doesn't take forever to launch. I prefer Chrome, I'll be honest. For this, I'm using the Vivaldi browser, which is great. But yeah, look, I to be completely honest, I still use Firefox sometimes, but for whatever reason, I've always had problems with Firefox in Linux only, not in Windows. For example, it's slower than Chrome. If I'm using Firefox and I start to stream some music or play some music, the sound coming out of the speakers will sound like this, like an echo effect, scratchy, and it only happens using Firefox, never in Chrome. I'm not sure why, I'll be quite honest, but there are, at least for Linux, there are better choices out there when it comes to web browsers. Personal experience over the years, it's possible you may never have had that problems. Again, Linux can be somewhat unpredictable. If you like Firefox, you've had no issues, do not change. But I just think there are better choices. But for snaps and Flatpaks, I use some. For example, in Linux Mint, I use the VLC snap. I think it's a snap or the Flatpak. I lost track, and it's fine. A little bit slower to launch, but not that much slower. But I had to. Playing DVDs, I had to use the snap version, I believe, and that's fine. Okay, what else do we have here coming up for Linux odds and ends? Let's do this one. This is from makeuseof.com. 10 common mistakes first-time Linux users make. Okay, now I'm going to do this from the eyes of a do this from the eyes of a Windows user and not just a Linux user, because what I've noticed, if we try to do, helping Windows users with Linux through the eyes of a Linux user, I think we sometimes forget that there are millions and millions of Windows users out there who have never tried Linux and may not even know what Linux is. So you have to put myself, in their eyes, if that makes any sense, to avoid any misconceptions or misinformation or just flat out lies, as it were, or unintentional lies. All right, so let's go through this one by one briefly. and see if this is truly helpful for a Windows user switching to Linux. Avoiding the use of the terminal. This here, okay. If you are brand new to this and not sure what Linux is, or maybe you heard me say it, or you saw something, the terminal is not hard to learn. It is time consuming, maybe. So I think in the beginning, okay, if you are brand new, I mean you know nothing about this, I think in the beginning you should avoid using the terminal if and only if you are brand new to all this. So we don't scare you. After you install it, and maybe a few weeks, a few months of getting used to this, you should use the terminal for odds and ends, learning how to update, learning how to install software, not being too technical. But in the beginning, I think to not scare a new user, I think maybe avoid using the terminal in the beginning. So I don't completely agree with this. Okay, number 2, trying to run EXE files. Yeah, big mistake in in Linux. This I would have to agree. It's not the same. I won't go into all of this here, but yeah, if you are thinking about using Linux, look, if you have to use Windows software for whatever reason, just use Windows. Okay? Let's move on. Using root too often. I don't think that's going to be a problem with a newbie to Linux. This one, number 3, makes me laugh. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a problem. Just personal observation. Yeah. Okay. Number 4, choosing the wrong distribution. Yeah. If you are new to all this, I prefer Ubuntu based. Like Ubuntu, Ubuntu Mate, Linux Mint, Zorn, Linux Lite, and the list goes on and on. Look, we have to give Ubuntu credit, give Canonical credit for creating Ubuntu back in 2004, trying to bring an attempt back then Linux to the masses. Since then, since Ubuntu came out, we've had, of course, Linux Mint, Zorn, Google has done great with Chromebooks and Chrome OS Flex. It all started with Ubuntu for the masses. I have to give Ubuntu credit, but yeah, if you are new, I would probably not use Fedora, OpenSUSE, Void, Arch. Nothing wrong with those once you get experience if you want to try them, but on this list here, yeah, I would try Ubuntu, Linux Mint, Zorn, Pop OS. Is Zorn on? I don't see the Zorn logo. Yeah, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, there was not a lot of choices for newbies. That has all changed. So, yeah, this I agree with. Let's see. Number 5, looking for installation files instead of repositories. Yeah, going back to the EXE files in Windows. Yeah, this can be a mistake if you're trying to do it a different way to install software as you would in Windows. So, yeah, I would have to agree with number 5. What else do we have here? Using wine instead of trying app alternative. Look, there's nothing wrong with drinking red wine using Linux. You can use wine to run Windows software and games in Linux. Wine has never worked for me, so I gave up using wine for the software I wanted to use. It's never worked. I gave up. Maybe there's a workaround. Honestly, guys, I don't care, don't know. So, once again, if you have to use Windows software for school, for work, just use Windows. There's nothing wrong with dual booting, as I do. I have 2 separate drives. Okay, so as far as using Wine to run Windows in Linux, just don't do it because it's probably not going to work or not work the way you want it to. And if you try this as a newbie and it doesn't work, you'll wind up saying, well, gee, Linux sucks. That's unfair. It would not be true, but I get it. If you have to use Windows software, use Windows. Windows 11 is great, by the way. Love it. It's just as fast, if not faster, than some Linux distributions. Windows 11. I'm stunned. Believe me, I'm stunned. I would like to make fun of Windows 11, but I can't. At least not today. Being too carefree about security. I don't. I mean, is this a problem? Being carefree about security? Most users switch to Linux because it is more secure, privacy-friendly. Linux system market makes it difficult for third-party files to access super user privileges, making it more secure than Windows. I don't know, guys. What do you think about this? You think a newbie would be too careless about security using Linux? I don't think that's going to be a problem either. Yeah, I mean, look, any operating system, including Windows and Mac, if it's properly updated, you know, I think it's going to be. I don't think security is going to be much of a problem. Any system that is properly updated, okay? I don't think security is going to be a problem. Privacy, you guys know, I don't think privacy exists on the web anymore. So it doesn't matter what you use. But being too carefree about security, I don't know about that one. All right, what else do we have here? Number 8. Thinking Linux and Ubuntu are the same. Thinking Linux and Ubuntu are the same. They kind of are. Ubuntu is Linux based, is it not? What am I missing here? Let's read this. If you have only recently learned about Linux, chances are you might think Linux and Ubuntu are the same, but in reality there are two different things. Linux is the kernel that helps an operating system interact with hardware, whereas Ubuntu is a Linux distro. Oh, okay. All right. Well, again, this can be confusing too for a newbie. Ubuntu obviously is Linux based. Okay. How can I make this simple for Windows users? Okay. I've talked about this in the past. Okay. You're on a bridge, okay? North side of the bridge would be your hardware. Your Dells, your HPs, and so on. The south side of the bridge would be your software. Okay, your Firefox, your VLCs, Spotify. You need something to connect the hardware and the software. That bridge you're standing on that connects the software and the hardware, that bridge is the Linux kernel. Does that make sense for all you newbies who watch this later? I hope so. You need something to connect. You need a priest. You need a Linux priest to marry the software and the hardware. So that's the Linux kernel. Technically, Linux in and of itself is not an OS. We sometimes say Linux operating system just to keep it simple. But yeah, I mean, Linux and Ubuntu are kind of the same. Ubuntu is Linux based. Technically speaking, yes. You need the kernel, the bridge to connect the software and the hardware. This might be a little bit confusing for a Windows user, I think. But okay, I kind of get this. Okay. Running any command found on the internet. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a problem for a newbie. But I can see where this can screw up your system. What's that one command to delete your OS? rm/something? Is that what it's something like? This can potentially be a problem, but if I'm showing someone brand new to Linux how to run Linux, I'm not going to show them any command found on the internet. And by the way, did you know that in Italian sudo means I sweat? Yes, I often sweat using Arch. Excuse me. That joke is for DT. I don't know if he's watching today, but anyway. Number 10, common Linux mistakes for newbies. Sharing Linux file formats with Windows users. Yeah, I guess I could see where this could be a potential problem. Sharing Linux files with Windows users is a frustrating mistake that you should avoid. You need to understand that Linux and Windows are different in their functionality and environment. Okay, alright, I'll buy that, I guess. The file extensions for Linux and Windows software are different too. For example, if you are using MS Office Alternative, Linux to edit the text. Yeah, this can be a potential problem, but if you know, I mean, there are standard formats out there that you can share, like rich text, rich text format, you know, and, you know, video formats, MP4s are usually the same. But yeah, I could see where this could be a potential problem if you are sharing between different, yeah. All right, that I would have to agree with. All right, so in conclusion, mistakes are key to learn Linux. Yeah. All right, so let's recap real quick here before we end this part here. Avoiding the use of the terminal. In the beginning, I think a Windows user should. In the beginning, you should. Yes. Number 2, trying to run X6. Yeah, this is not going to work. You can try using the Wine emulation software, but it's never worked for me. Using root too often, I don't think that's going to be a problem. Choosing the wrong distribution, completely agree with this. If a Windows user picks the wrong one the first time, it doesn't work, it crashes, they're going to say Linux sucks. That would not be fair. But if somebody advises them to use the wrong system, whose fault is that? The Windows user or the Linux advisor? Just a thought. Looking for installation files instead of repositories, yeah, that can be a problem. Using Wine, unless it's red wine. Being too careful about security, I don't think that is going to be a problem. So, yeah. Thinking Linux and Ubuntu are the same. Again, this can be somewhat confused. They kind of are the same, but again, Linux kernel is the bridge that connects the software and the hardware. All right? Running any command on... Yeah, you don't want to run any command. So, yeah. Sharing Linux file formats with Windows, yes, that also can be a potential problem, so I completely agree there. Yes, I do. Let me get another drink here of water. All right, let me check the chat here again. For those of you coming in late, I haven't done much this month. I had the sudden passing of a family member, a dear friend of mine. This month I just felt like crap, so again, my apologies. So thank you for those of you who have continued to stick around. I do appreciate it. Let's do a quick jog here in the chat. Lamer, hello. Barco, hello. What is this? It's a live podcast. Lamer says he had a crush on a girl in college named Vanessa. Aww. Chrome OS Flex, what is it? It's a somewhat new, it's Google's Linux-based system they've been testing for years. That's free. You can install. It looks like on anything now. I tested it briefly in a Windows Vista machine. It was great. So yeah. What's wrong with Firefox? I talked about that. I just had issues. I prefer Chrome, Brave. Yeah, I think Chrome and Brave are my two go-to web browsers. I still use Firefox sometimes. Chrome and Brave. Vivaldi I'm using now. It seems okay. So yeah. Kenny, Firefox is slow, period. Well, it's slower than Chrome. And the Firefox snap is ridiculously slow. But apparently Ubuntu has fixed that. So I don't know. Lamer is a browser hopper. Barcore, you use Chromium. Okay. DT is in the house. Your system is too unstable for viruses. Okay, that's one for DT. They only affect stable operating. Oh, so that's why I've had all these problems. I need to go with the unstable branch of Arch. Barco has got all your machines vaccinated and boosted. No worry about viruses. Yay! You can't just RM your whole drive. You have to use sudo to do that. Okay. All right. Barco says, so Chrome OS Flex equals the end of Linux. Well, no. I mean, Chrome OS Flex is part of the Linux ecosystem. No, I think it's... If anything, I think it's just the opposite. It's the continuation of Linux systems to the masses. So I think it's a great choice. It is a Linux standard, or Google's version of a Linux standard. So no, it's definitely not the end of Linux. It's the expansion of Linux as far as Chrome OS Flex. I mean, look, Chromebooks and Chrome OS, it's not for everybody. It's different, but it is a choice. So what do we have here? Adrian says, might put a dent in Linux adoption. What will? And welcome, Adrian Soren. Is that your name? Okay, welcome. Chrome OS is based on Linux. Yes, Chrome OS Flex just gives you Chrome OS, a Linux container. If you want the Android support, you'll need to buy a Chrome. That is true, Lamer. Yes, if you want Android, you need to get a Chromebook. Chrome OS Flex, again, if you have an outdated machine, slow, whatever, you tried Windows, you even tried the other Linux-based systems, didn't work out. Chrome OS Flex gives you an option. It's super fast. I guess it's out of the unstable branch. I tried the unstable version of Chrome OS Flex, and it worked. I was stunned. You just never know with Linux. But anyway, yes. If you have, speaking of Chromebooks, if you have an outdated Chromebook that has expired, it's not too late. You can still try installing Chrome OS Flex if you want, or try installing Lacrosse. Linux in Chrome OS web browser, Lacrosse. I did on my expired Acer 15. That came out 6 years ago, I think. Still works, a little bit slower. So as far as expired Chromebooks, you do not have to get rid of them. Where was I? But yeah, as far as the Chrome OS versus Chrome OS Flex, yeah, Chrome OS Flex somewhat limited abilities, such as Android support. I don't really install too many Android apps on my Chromebook, to be honest. But yeah. Or I'll stick around a few more minutes before we wrap this up. If there is anybody new who is watching for this Good Morning Linux podcast and has a question or would like to say hello, please do. Always enjoy meeting somebody new, as it were, with these random chats. If you would like to support the Total OS channel, there are, below in the show notes, there's a Patreon and PayPal links below, or you can shop Amazon. So Android desktop version is terrible, can't get any apps to run on it. The Android apps on Chromebooks are hit and miss. The ones that I've installed, there's a few. I think, what did I install? Some kind of a music player. I think Pulsar. Yeah, Pulsar Android app works. VLC works. Not too many apps, Android apps, but the ones that I've tried seems to work. Look, it's just a choice. At least it's nice to have that option, So yeah. Oh, Lamer, you tried Chrome OS Flex and it was good. Yeah, it's I think this will just expand the exposure and the sales of Chromebooks. Like I said, I have one of those 2-in-1s, touchscreen, laptop, keyboard, Chromebooks. It's able to run games on it, but I don't do that much gaming on a Chromebook. So, yeah, it's, they're super fast. The battery lasts all day. The one I have is 4K screen. Yeah, I think, look, for somebody new to Linux and maybe is still too scared to try Linux, or maybe try Linux before had a bad experience, show them a Chromebook. Tell them to try a Chromebook. Say, hey, this is Linux based, and go from there. Sedan Smith says, I do like Google, but the trend is to limit your machine by time. Pure Linux extends your time. I'm not sure what you mean, Sedan. I think there is an OS called, a distribution called Pure Linux, by the way. So if that's Pure Linux, were all the previous ones unpure Linux? Just a thought, What did I install? As I said, I tend to avoid Flatpaks and snaps because I just don't know when they're going to work or launch or too slow. But oh yes, I installed a streaming music player called Shortwave, a Flatpak. And you know what? I was surprised. It launches pretty fast as a normal non-snap or Flatpak package. So if you're into music streaming, check out the app Shortwave. I believe it's only a Flatpak. I was surprised how well it is. Yeah. At least how fast it launches in Linux Mint. All right, one more song about my dad, and we're gonna wrap this up. I like this song. Something about this song cracks me up. Sorry, just thinking about Dad, still in Italy. Anyway, so Lamer says Linux expenses your time because something broke and you're spending time to fix it, Dad. Yeah, well, sometimes that can be true, Lamer, not too far off. Yes. Sometimes. I actually installed, it may have been in my Ubuntu machine, was it the Snap or the Flatpak version of OBS, just out of curiosity. And that seemed okay. Yeah. Don't spend too much time in Linux. Just a joke. Just a joke. Anyway. If you haven't already, check out the last video, short video that I posted. There is a comic genius out of Cleveland, Josh Robert Thompson. He does voice impressions like Morgan Freeman, George Lucas, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh, Barker asks, what's my dad singing about? He's singing in Italian. Okay. This particular song is called, translated, Barker. It's translated, oh, I fell for it. You are my love. I'm screwed. I call it the I'm Screwed song. It's a satire song about life in general. If you want to check out his tunes below, if you look below in the show notes, there's a link to a website I set for him for the songs. You can download the songs for $1, whatever. For example, part of the lyrics to this song is, your friends are your friends until you need them. Again, satire about life. When things don't go wrong, don't go right, you feel like you've been screwed. or, one of those days, months. You know what I mean. But that's what he's singing about. But it's in Italian, Barcore. My dad is a talented, God bless him, he's pushing 90 years old, singer-songwriter. Anyway, I'm playing the songs to cheer me up this month, a rough month. So, but you can't understand because he's singing in Italian. But translated, "Oh, I Fell for It," title of the song, "I'm Screwed," or something like that. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. This song just sounds like it could be played at a wedding,
Di coscienza e dignità. Che vergogna, che vergogna, che vergogna. L'onestà. No, 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 non esiste più. Dignità. Chi lo sa, chi lo sa. Questa storia deve finire. Fatti grandi con I miei sonori.
Yeah, "Oh, I Fell for It, You Are My Love." That's how I translated the song. Those of you who are watching this on the screen. Anyway. All right. What was I saying? I lost track. You're welcome, Barcore. Yeah, check out the songs. 2 songs on the Bandcamp page are from his movie. It's still not out in theaters. Anyway, that's a different story. There were 2 songs that he wrote. One of them is called "God Guide Us." The other one is called "I Truly Love You." Those are 2 songs that he wrote for a movie. 2 beautiful songs you can check out. La 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 la. All right. Anything else before we wrap this up, guys? Thank you for stopping by again. I'm sure I missed a lot of you, many of you. So you watch this on the replay or listen to this on the replay. And as soon as I'm done here, I need to cut some grass and get my exercise. Walk off all this Italian sausage I had yesterday. This weekend, I forgot all about it, is the annual Upper Ohio Valley Italian Festival. And I forgot all about it. I could smell the sausage from here. I had sausage at home that I cooked. But they make a great sausage sandwich. It's about 30 miles down the river from where I live. And I forgot about it. Oh well, I guess next year. Anyway. All right. We will wrap this up for this one. Again, thank you for stopping by. Always great chatting with you guys. If I missed anything or you have any comments, suggestions, you guys know how to reach me. Be safe out there. Enjoy whatever operating system you use. And I shall catch you on the next one. Arrivederci, my dear friends. Take care.